All right, we are live and all right, and welcome in. Max, we got you. We didn't know if we were going to make it in time, so I was ready to lead us off. But
Oh my goodness. I was getting so enraged at my equipment, and I'm just lucky to be here and having stuff I can use. So yeah, here we are. Another edition of 4th and 4.
yeah, so welcome in, man. It's been fun time. Obviously, I'm gonna let you off for hosting duties this week since you've been been through it this morning, man. We're not gonna make you go through it too much more at all. DJ obviously joining us as well. DJ, what's up, man?
Just another day enjoying the happy Sunday. Glad to be back.
Yeah, man, it's been a crazy one for sure. Well, guys, it is obviously time to get started. We are on Colorcast Live. We are on brand new Belly Up pregame Sunday mornings. I mean, does it feel any better? Like we have a whole lineup now. It's not just us on a Sunday morning.
I know. We got so many great content creators coming together to make really what I consider a kick-ass, NFL pregame lineup. Just getting you to coast in right to the beginning of that 1 o'clock slate on Eastern time. And it's a ton of fun. It's a big collaborative project. It's looking like it's going to be something awesome that we can build upon. So let's do this. Our part is right now.
Yeah. So obviously that leads us into our first quarter. And gentlemen, there's been a lot of crazy stories a lot going on here lately. Let's start with number one, Deshaun Watson. I don't think we can beat around the bush around this one anymore. This has been such a hot topic. The Dolphins obviously wanting him, literally dying to have him, but at the same time not trying to get any of these legal issues happening as well. So what's your guys' first take on it? Zach, we'll start with you.
Well, I will say it looked like things got cleared up this morning because it sounds like the Texans are just going to park him, and I don't know if they're going to move him. But I also was kind of leading into this show. You know what? If you're a Dolphins fan, like just don't. The risk isn't worth it anymore. Like all the potential snags that might come up, that might be in play. If he leaves Houston, what happens legally in terms of like, say, he's not in town, if the NFL finally decides to say, oh, well, he's starting. So is the commissioner's list finally going to come into play? These factors that kind of make the trade instantly not worth it to you. And you lose all this value for what could be so little, possible reward for very high risk. They might as well just move away from it. And I think the Panthers were smart to do so earlier on. I think the Dolphins are just, I don't know if it's just really, if you ask me, very much desperate, or they are upset with Tua. I know there's talks that Brian Flores didn't want Tua when they drafted him, but that being said, I mean, that's what we're stuck with.
Yeah. So obviously big change of things, but DJ, what about you, man? What's your thoughts on the whole Deshaun?
I just still think it's that Miami should stay away from it. When you drafted a quarterback 700 days ago and you haven't really given him a shot, he's played 13 starts and has 2-1 interceptions, a few thousand yards. Like, he's not great, but there's a lot of other starting quarterbacks. You look at his stat lines, like, oh, we will gladly take that. Daniel Jones, for example, you look at his stat line, he would gladly take that through 13 starts. It's comparable to even Joe Burrow a little bit. It's not too far off for his first 13 starts. It's not. Obviously, Deshaun's that special kind of talent. You look at him and it's like, oh, I could compete with Josh Allen with that. And that's kind of what it feels like. Is they look at Josh Allen, it's like, we want one of those. We want something close to that. And Tua's not quite close to that. You can win with him. He's going to be sensational. Wherever he goes next, he's going to be very, very good. Whoever snags him for like an 8th round pick or whatever ends up being is going to be really, really happy. But Miami, that ship has sailed. They broke that one, and they better hope they can get Deshaun and get all of Deshaun and get everything that they anticipate. Because let's not forget, Deshaun did win 3-4 games last year as well too. I mean, he is really good, but I don't know if he's necessarily if he's going to completely change them all that much as well too. So they better hope they have a killer draft if they do get him in. Same with Carolina if they decide to go in on him as well too, because I know they're going really heavy on him since Sam Darnold's reverted back to ghost Darnold in recent weeks too. So we'll have to see how they balance that out. But whoever gets him, you're getting an elite talent. is the juice worth the squeeze right now when you don't know what's on the horizon? And you don't know with everybody you trade for, but now even more so than most people involved in these type of trades.
Am I the only one that is like feeling like with a microscope on Tua is starting to get ridiculous in terms of like people trying to look everywhere? I understand that the dude had a rough rookie season. But even after a 4 touchdown, 2 interception loss, credit, the interceptions did put him in that position. It just feels like every week is like, well, let's sit and wait until this guy messes up. That's how this is being treated. It's not being treated like this is supposed to be your first round star quarterback. This is if he messes up enough, we can get rid of him, is what it's feeling like. And I'm just thinking like, this ain't a Josh Rosen thing. Dude came in, dude tried to work hard. He hasn't said anything wrong. He's just being treated like he's, kind of used already, which is amazing to me.
Yeah. Look, I think to your point, I mean, my whole thing with this Tua is like, it's kind of like Jim Harbaugh with Michigan up until he just lost, but it's
Right.
like, it's unnecessary pressure on somebody who's literally doing everything he can, given what he's given. Like it's kind of silly in some ways, just how much people ride him. And I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of Miami fans that forget how bad they are. Like they're like, oh, Tua's our savior. Like, no, it's not just Tua. Like you need a whole team. You literally hemorrhaged your entire offensive line less than 5 years ago. Like let's not forget, you literally had one guy, and by the way, he got in trouble for smoking weed on draft night.
Right.
So, and now he's not even there. So what do you do now? I mean, like it's ridiculous to me that Tua gets all this heat, and they're not building around him. It's not like he's a franchise talent that they're building around. No, it's just it's a thing. But I do want to go to a point that DJ did make up for bring in for us for the Panthers. There's also been a trade with the Panthers that doesn't involve a quarterback, but you might call him a quarterback of the defense, and Stephon Gilmore. He might make his appearance today for the Panthers. Do you guys think that Stephon Gilmore, and before I get to that, Coach Steve actually jumping in the chat here, NFL is falling in love with starting rookies right now, and then they get upset and they don't play elite right away. I believe both of you have talked about these microwave quarterbacks and how how if like you don't have them. Like, do you guys want to chime in on that one at all before we move on?
Well, I can definitely tell you that Steve and I had a good conversation actually on the show previous to this with the Bears 49ers recap preview that we were doing. I hopped on there, and that was kind of our conversation was, like Justin Fields is kind of this example he's referencing here is that, and he says it right there, funny enough, but you see like people want to get the big, shiny new thing out on the field and see what he can do already. That doesn't mean that you're NFL ready. You can look great in the college system you're in. But that doesn't mean that translates instantly to the NFL. Sometimes you do need to have that thing cook a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. Sometimes coaching does help. And I think that we're just in an NFL environment anymore where it's strictly these guys need to start now or we're going to fail as an organization. Or guys are getting drafted first round picks and it's for hot seat coaches, so they have to start it. Otherwise, they will lose their job. There's no waiting around. It's one or the other usually.
Yeah, and DJ, I want to ask you about that because Zach makes a good point about it's almost too late to some point. Do you think that maybe we're waiting too long to draft quarterbacks now in the NFL? Do you think GMs and stuff are just taking their sweet time?
That could be part of it as well, too. I think a lot of it is you look at the rookie wage scale for quarterbacks. No, none of them are getting the Sam Bradford $50 million right away. They're getting a discounted quarterback. And if you can get Patrick Mahomes on a discount price, when you get the Josh Allens, the 1%ers, if you will, the Justin Herberts, you think, oh, we have to win now because they go from 0 to 100 really quick with those quarterback contracts. They will, next thing you know, Patrick Mahomes is half a billionaire real quickly. So I think they're trying to capitalize before they have to do that. And they get, if you have a somewhat decent team, like, for example, we look at the Bears, you have pieces. You have Khalil Mack, you have Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, and now Khalil Herbert all of a sudden. Like, you have some pieces, but you have a giant gaping hole across the offensive line, a miserable offensive philosophy, and Justin Fields, who needed time to develop. He's a guy with a bunch of talent, a whole lot of skill, but needs just a little bit more time. When Kelsey and I did the prediction show, and we thought he was the second best quarterback in the draft, but he would be more, if he could have sat a little bit longer, that'd have been better off for him. And if he went to not inept coaching staff, which so we'll talk about them later. But I think we look at Trevor Lawrence, he was basically the greatest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, those type of guys. And he's struggling too. I mean, he's had some good games. He's had some big stats, but he's not exactly lighting the world on fire. Zach Wilson, Patrick Mahomes 2.0. He leads the league in turnovers, ironically, with Patrick Mahomes. Who would have thought? And then you look at Mac Jones. They said he has the highest ceiling. He'll be ready to go. He looks pretty decent, but the team is still, 3-4? Like, that team's good, and he's able to manage it. So I think we just need to reel back expectations. Trey Lance, everyone was willing to give him a year or two to sit, and they seem a little bit less hell-bent on him. So I think everyone just needs to taper back their expectations. You do get the rare Justin Herberts, and even Josh Allen was not that great early on. Everyone kind of forgets that first year he was really erratic. That second year he was erratic. They just happened to make the playoffs with his erraticness, where he caught a touchdown in the playoff game. That's all you need to know about what they really thought of him. They had him receiving touchdowns in a playoff game. And then we saw last year the explosion, but that wasn't year 1 or year 2 even. That was year 3. As long as you see progression, that's what you need to be concerned about.
Absolutely.
And I think coaches in the Bears case, they unfortunately drafted a quarterback that needs to develop to save their job. And that's what made that an entire miserable mess. When you get a relatively new coach able to draft a quarterback, or a coach that has some leeway like John Harbaugh did when he got Lamar Jackson, like it needs to be a blend like that. It can't be oh God, we're in trouble. This guy will be our savior, like the Bears put Justin Fields in, for example. So I think just knowing that your quarterback's going to need a little bit of time. No, very few guys walk in and are immediately dominant. And usually when they do, they eventually do hit a plateau. I think that's what we're seeing with Patrick now. Everything was so great and easy. And now you look at how he's playing this year. It is literally, you could put up his Texas Tech scouting report right next to him. Like, erratic with the football. Check. Sometimes boneheaded plays. Check. Runs out of a pocket when he doesn't need to. Check. Sometimes tries to fit into windows that don't exist. Check. Like everything like all those things that were on his scouting report are starting to rear back now. So I think we just need to taper back, and I think everyone needs to just kind of understand there is 7 to 10 quarterbacks that are that good. The rest of them you can win with, but you're a lot closer to Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, like those type of guys. You have to be willing to be like, all right, this is what we have. We don't have a $50 million a year guy, so we're gonna have like 2 $20 million a year guys around to make them look a lot better. Ryan Tannehill, perfect example. He was the bust from 2012, and now he's the only one left from that draft class besides he's actually the last one playing since Russell Wilson's hurt right now. So if you look at it, Nick Foles is riding 4th string, Andrews sit right off into the sunset, and RG3 is on TV. Like 6 in one and half a dozen in the other. I think we just need to taper back with quarterbacks, give them a little bit of time, and just watch progression. Right now, Justin Fields doesn't look great, but that's a very much a product of his environment. They drafted him for the wrong reasons, unfortunately. So there's different things with every case.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely for sure. Now, before we get into the conversation about rookie quarterbacks and their situation, because that is obviously something that we'll discuss real quick. I did want to go back to Stephon Gilmore real fast. How do you guys think he's going to fare today? Obviously trying to make his appearance real quickly. What do you guys think? Do you think he's going to be able to make an impact, walk in immediately, make an impact? Or do you think we're going to see these shades of Stephon Gilmore that doesn't exist anymore?
I want to say there's going to be some rust. I mean, it's been away for a little over a year now at this point. I think it's reasonable to expect at least something. Not saying that's impossible. I mean, this guy was the top cornerback in the league for at least a 3-year period. So it all depends on how his off season, at least in terms of rehab and as well as just getting up to speed, has been. That's kind of the basics of it. You know, how much of the rehab and training off the field have you done to where, you know, it doesn't look like you're missing a step or you're having to get back and catch up again. And also just how well, you know, he's been able to pick up the defensive aspects that the Panthers are asking of him. I'm going to lean towards some rust. I'm not saying he's going to make an immediate impact just because it's been a decent amount of time.
Okay. DJ, what about you?
I'm going to say the best impact he can make is nobody says his name after kickoff, basically, besides he is back on the field because they don't really target him. They don't, like, he's not chasing Calvin Ridley all over the place. They let him basically just play one side. If you're playing a deep zone, play your deep zone. If you're playing the flat, play the flat. But if you are playing man, hopefully they don't leave him one-on-one with Calvin Ridley or something ridiculous, or even Kyle Pitts, because my goodness, he's been absolutely terrorizing the NFL the last handful of weeks. So I think as long as you don't put him in any situations that have to be Defense Player of the Year, Stephon Gilmore, it'll be okay. Give him a chance to knock off the rust. But knowing Carolina, they might think, oh, he is our savior on the defensive side. And they're going to try and make him go one-on-one with Calvin Ridley with no safety help. And that could get him in a little bit of trouble because Calvin Ridley is that dude. But I think as long as we don't say his name throughout the day, we'll be fine. I don't think he'll come away with an interception, but I don't think he'll get toasted regularly at the same time. He'll just kind of be there.
Yeah. Let's hope that's the case. I mean, I feel like that'd be. I don't want to see the Josh Norman, where he disappears from Carolina, goes from Carolina to somewhere else, and it's just like falls off the face of the earth. That would be miserable. But real quick, before we go into quarter two, I just want to get you guys a hot take. What do you guys think? Who do you think is the best rookie quarterback so far this season? Zach, go ahead.
I know some people are gonna argue, well, it's the system. They played some strengths and they haven't done too much. But I'm gonna say it's Mac Jones. I've been really impressed. It's not just that he's throwing intermediate passes and that's all he's doing and just being safe. I mean, the guy in recent weeks has started taking more chances. He's looked like he has very good situational awareness at times. He just looked really, to me, he looks professional. And I think that right now is what you're expecting. The fact that he looks like he's at least been a serviceable starter to start and is getting better, it seems, every week in times. I got to go with Mac Jones here. And I think he also just best situation helps out as well. If I want to say someone that I think, I can say argument every week he's looked like he's improved too. I think Trevor Lawrence, you can make that case. But to me, Mac Jones, the tape to me and just everything I'm seeing, he's got to be the guy I'm saying looks right now the best out of the class, at least for this year.
Yeah. DJ?
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to pick Mac Jones when he's the only one that's had any success really. I mean, I will say
Right.
Trey Lance is very, 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 very limited action. He has looked incredibly explosive. So when he starts to take over, I think he's going to make a strong push down the stretch. But we talked about all the quarterbacks are struggling really. Give it to Mac Jones right now, but I like what I've seen from Trey Lance in very little bit of time. I mean, coming in on short notice against Seattle, they did lose the game, but he had some moments. Like he's got some growing pains. We talked about this, so we'll see. Let's revisit this next year and see who's looking good. Because right now, I think they're all going to struggle, and I think their Patriots are. You're going to see some more Mac Jones struggles coming up as well too. Like I like what I've seen. He's been able to plug and play. Maybe if they trade for Brandon Cooks or something like that, there's a little bit of a rumor for that. Maybe that'll give him another dynamic playmaker to help him out. But I don't feel like this is 2012 or something like that, where all the rookies come in and just light it up and all of them go to the playoffs or anything ridiculous. This one seems a little more even keeled.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to your guys' point, on Colorcast, we have a comment, and they also say Mac Jones. That's Shornay. And they do have a question for you. Bigger disappointment, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields so far through the season?
Oh, my God.
Zach, I know this one hits you hard.
Right. Well, okay. I think caveats really got to go mostly for Fields. I think that Wilson is, just because I think there's, as much as it's weird to say it that way, offensively, they do have more weapons around him. I'm going to be honest. Besides maybe the running game, in terms of getting pass catchers and ability, and they've invested a little more in the line. Trust me, if you're a Bears fan, and Steve will say the same thing, that line is atrocious. It's giving up the most sacks in the NFL right now. He has no time to stay in the pocket. It is really hard to evaluate Justin Fields. I'm doing this because I can't really evaluate Fields well, because he keeps getting smacked around, it seems like, every other play. Wilson at least has some time, but it's he's also making some mistakes where I am like, okay, maybe we need to reel it back a little bit, because they're trying to be explosive off the gate, and I don't know if it's just he's getting up to speed fully, but they need to be a little more conservative on offense and I think almost a Mac Jones approach for him would work wonders, just like for Mac Jones, but yeah, Fields is getting hit too much. I can't give an honest opinion on him at the moment for this year.
No, fair enough. DJ, what about you? Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, who's bigger disappointment?
I don't want to say disappointment because it sounds like I hate them both, but I will say they both disappointed me in their own rights. I'll take the cop out on that one. Zach Wilson, with his decision making with the ball, we've seen looks like he's just erratic with the ball. They talked about, he only threw 3 interceptions or whatever it was his senior year. He's so great. He's throwing in the triple coverage way too damn often, and he's panicking a little bit with the ball. So I'm a little concerned with that. Obviously not too worried. I mean, that knee injury as well, so chalk that up. So that's where he's been disappointing. Justin Fields, he's been disappointing with reading protections. We know that's not an offensive line, but he's making a lot of random pre-snap audibles. It's like you don't see that nickel blitz coming and you're running a double move. Like some of the little things like that, I think he doesn't realize quite. That offensive line's trash and your coach is not helping you. I think he just doesn't understand protections quite as well yet. He's still learning them and finding the hot reads cut. Like when the nickel comes, you throw to his spot, not looking backside. Just pre-snap. They have a little bit of pre-snap stuff. They'll work it out. Neither one's disappointing me. But those are two areas I think they both needed to improve, because I had higher expectations for Fields because I think he is better. When we did our pre-draft board, I had him one spot higher than Wilson, literally 10th compared to 11th. And we knew Zach Wilson was going to be a mess in New York. We knew how bad it was going to be. Chicago, I don't think we knew how bad it was going to be. We knew there was some mess there, but it's actually even worse than we thought. So We'll see next year. But I think that those are two areas where they both, I don't want to say disappoint me, but I think they both have some things they got to work on. I'll leave it that way. I don't want to say disappointing when we just talked about give these guys time, but same sort of idea. Those are the two biggest holes for both.
I wish that the Bears would use like a Ravens style run first offense where Fields' legs could generate, and they have once Montgomery's healthy, they have 2 running backs that could also run this. I feel like if you take a page out of that alleviates, because the Bears rush offense is actually pretty solid. It's one of the better units in the NFL. They just can't pass pro for anything. I could say a much worse word right now, but to me, if I'm thinking way out of the box, that might be a way out of the box solution that might actually work.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you have Matt Nagy. I think that's.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't do anything with him in town.
I withhold judgment on disappointment at this point in time because, well, one's dealing with Matt Nagy, the other one's dealing with his tractor trailer of a left tackle being injured and Mekhi Becton, and obviously not being healthy throughout the whole season. And that's just one of the many injuries on offensive lines that somebody can complain about. But I do think, obviously, the seeing ghost situation for Zach Wilson might be coming true. But Justin Fields, he is rightfully seeing ghosts because his first game was the worst game you could possibly throw him in on. Like, let's take that offensive line and let's set you against the best pass rusher in the game today, and that's Myles Garrett, and see what happens. And I think that was just absolutely terrible. And that was look, Jermaine Ifedi was trying to block Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney by going backwards with his arms straight without actually touching him. Like, he literally walked straight backwards upfield to try to block him. And that's just that's a microcosm of the Bears this season, offensive line wise. And that's, I mean, honestly, the Jets aren't much better. So I'm going to withhold judgment for this season, but I do think next season will be the telling one, especially for Zach Wilson. See what that Jets team can do with a second draft, which I've been a proponent that they needed 2 drafts to fix all their holes. And I mean, obviously they're a little bit better than I expected on the field, but not much better. I mean, there's still rough sledding out there. But that'll take us into quarter number 2. Obviously, that is our betting quarter. And, well, our favorite person when it comes to betting, DJ, he comes with all the heat with this one. So, DJ, what do you have on the docket today for your bets? What are the ones you're looking at that might be on other people's radar, might not be?
Tell me where I can win some money, DJ. Let's do it.
We'll go and coast through these ones really quickly as well, too. First one we're going to look at is San Francisco -3.5 over Chicago. Neither one of these teams is good enough to win by more than 3 points, honestly. So look for Chicago to at least cover that one. Whether they win or not, that's a different story. But look for Chicago to at least cover that. That has 3-6 written all over it if the way both offenses have played in recent weeks, or 24-27 if both offenses randomly show up. Don't look for that one to be a wash. And then same with Denver, Washington. Almost same -3.5 points for Denver. Washington should at least cover that. Terry McLaurin's good for 3.5 points. I mean, they'll be fine. They'll cover that one. Now jumping into money lines. Tennessee is only a -154 favorite over the Colts, who have been rolling the last winning 3 of the last 4 and only losing a quarter really during that time. Depending on which team you like, you could go. If you like Tennessee a lot, -154 is not that bad. That's a pretty good odds. And Indy is the underdog. If you believe in them rolling, you could take both sides of that one. It's virtually a pick 'em with a little bit of leeway both ways. You could win some money either way, depending on which one you're more hell-bent over. And also, Philadelphia, -198 over the Lions. Not a very big spread for considering you're going against the 0-7 Lions. I like the Lions in this one as well. And I think even if you like Philadelphia, it's kind of the same thing. It's not a very big, very large odds. So you could pick both sides. I like the Lions to win a little bit of money tonight and get their first dub of the season. And then now we're going to over-unders. We're going to go back to the Bears versus 49ers. 39.5 points. I'm going to take the over on that one just because I think Justin Fields finally, without Matt Nagy calling empty sets every gosh darn play, they're going to chip Nick Bosa, and we're going to see him actually able to utilize some of his throwing skill set and some of his mobility skill set. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, whatever they decide to do with that one, since Trey Lance is back practicing and looks like he does not have a knee injury, which I'm still curious about that knee injury, but I digress. I think we're going to see a little bit of a mini showcase between these two guys, if you will. I think Trey Lance will get some red zone opportunities on just, how they like to use his legs, that sort of thing, little dump off passes. And Jimmy Garoppolo will be able to get a little bit loose because the Bears defense, while effective, can get got sometimes if you don't get quick pressure on it. The back end does not hold up as well as you'd like. Maybe Deebo Samuel, or maybe we see a Brandon Ayuk sighting finally. We'll see. Maybe they finally decide to use him instead of every time they ask about him in a press conference saying he has work to do. We'll see. And then, of course, Seahawks versus Jags, 43.5 points. Take the under on that one. That is a Geno Smith-led offense that can't seem to throw the ball to Tyler Lockett and only can throw one deep one to DK and then never see him again. And the Seahawks defense has underratedly been effective the last handful of weeks too. I know they haven't won any games, but they kept the Steelers in check. It took Geno Smith fumbling in overtime. And against the Saints, they let Alvin Kamara go off, but only gave up 13 points. Like they do a little bit of bending, but they do a good job of not fully breaking. So Seahawks defense could keep it close. Either way you win, I think it's going to be under. This has like 17-20 written all over it or something like that. Take the under for Seahawks and Jaguars.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
Zach, what about you? I know you might not have been prepared. You're used to hosting duties normally. So, but what you got on the docket?
I know, right? I get I was gonna say it's a little bit different for me. I get to put in a few takes myself. Tell you what, I mean, it's one of the games that kind of surprised me with how people are looking at it is really Philadelphia and Detroit. Seems like a lot of people have high confidence in Detroit finally getting that first win of the year. So if I'm being honest, look for that spread to not look. If you're being honest, I don't see Philadelphia covering the spread in this one. I think it's going to be a pretty tight contest. And you're going to be watching out for games like that. Similar one that I want to watch out for that I would avoid is Tennessee and Indianapolis. It's 2.5 is what I've got at the moment. I think that's going to be not like the case. I think that spread's not going to get covered either. And then also another one too. I think that if we're going to talk about over unders, that's something else. Me guys, I usually look at the over unders as ones where I'm like, maybe take one here, not one here. Cincinnati, right now you got the over under at 43. I don't know about that. I'm gonna say that you're going to be an over here. I'll be watching out for the over on this case. Jesus, microphone, stop that. Otherwise, I would say final one of the day for me. I'm looking here at Tampa Bay and New Orleans. Again, this one I'll say Tampa's going to definitely cover the spread on this. If you're looking for a little bit more certainty there, I go with that. And I would take the under on that one because I think New Orleans is going to be a good defensive test for the Buccaneers. But I think they'll be able to cover the spread any case. That one right now is at a -4. So look out for that one if you want and taking those options.
All right. I like it. All right. So I got a question for both of you guys. There's a couple odds in here that look, we've talked about these before, how I feel comfortable, how I don't feel comfortable with these huge point spreads. Bengals Jets. No Zach Wilson today. Obviously his knee injury will be keeping him out, at least according to the updated report. That's on CBS Sports. Right now, that's a -11 spread for the Bengals. Over under at 43. What do you guys think about this one? If you were to put on, would you put money on either, or would you do you not like the 11 points?
I think the spread's reasonable. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, Mike White being in instead of Joe Flacco because he couldn't get up to speed. I would have had a little more confidence in that spread. I would have had a little more confidence in at least the Jets here trying to negate that if Flacco's in because he was in the system last year. But I'm not going to put my money on Mike White after what I saw last week. So I don't know. I think that's a reasonable spread to cover. I mean, the Jets got destroyed 54-13. Whether that's Belichick just having his curse or whatnot on that team, I think it's still reasonable to say that the Bengals could easily do that themselves with what I would say is an even more explosive offense all around on every piece that they have.
Yeah. DJ, what about you? You taking any of that action with the Bengals Jets, or are you just leaving that one to somebody else?
I'm just going to leave that one to somebody else. I mean, I do think the Bengals will win, but cover the spread, but the juice is not worth the squeeze. I'm just going to walk right by that betting board and just keep moving on. But I think the Bengals are going to win comfortably. I think they're going to cover that spread. The over under, they'll probably get close to the over by themselves. The Jets they look a little bit rough, and the Bengals are that naively young team that probably don't fully realize they're supposed to crush this team, considering a year ago they were the Jets basically after Joe Burrow went down. So I think Jamar Chase is going after some records and stuff. I think they're going to be just fine this week. I don't think this is a trap game for the Bengals.
Yeah, it's funny. They actually they're looking at the betting experts for this one. They actually were 6-2 taking the Bengals at the point spread of -10. But now that it's -11, it has actually dropped to a 4-4. Very interesting that even without Zach Wilson, they're like, oh well, I don't know about this one. But in an even bigger spread, the Rams Texans. First of all, -16 currently, 46.5 over under. Again, I gotta know, guys. Are you taking any of this action, or are you just again letting this one slide?
Oh man, that is it's steep, and I can see it. But does that mean I want to? That's just a really that's massive. That is I don't know. I think I still would, but I don't know if if it was say like last resort type of thing. If I was like the only choice I
Like you just want to
had.
throw $2 at it just to see.
Sure, like that's kind of it. I think like yeah, the Rams I think are going to blow the Texans out of the building in Houston. Like I think it's bound to happen, and that you could reasonably say it's the case. But Jesus Christ, the 16 spread is I mean, you're still banking on a lot. I mean, any team can have a good day. Even the Rams have shown lulls. Last week they did it, for crying out, against Detroit. So you're still going to put 16 on it?
Yeah, that's a good question, DJ. I mean, look, to give you an idea, betting odds are all literally betting experts are saying 8-0 Rams. I mean, are you with them just saying like this is too obvious that the Rams can cover this, or do you think the Texans might, with Davis Mills and no Mark Ingram, by the way?
Yeah.
Do you think the Texans could cover the spread, or could at least prevent it?
Yeah, I'm going to still take the Rams to win that comfortably. I think they're going to walk away with that one. The Mark Ingram trade clearly did not do any favors. We saw Brandon Cooks tweet about it. And not to mention the Cardinals just lost on Thursday night. The Rams are going to have another injection of life like, oh, we still got a shot here. If we win this game, we're tied at the top of the division, so you're half a game behind, and Kyler Murray is dinged up. So I think the Cardinals losing might have given the Rams a little bit more incentive to go all out too. Maybe Houston could get some late garbage time touchdowns to cover the spread, but I'm not putting any money on that. I'm just going to stay away from that one and let the Rams do what the Rams do.
Fair enough.
Here's one that I actually really quick I want to bring up that I'm like, how is it this? And I know Miami, it's a 1-6 roster, but -14, like really that I know that the Bills have had their way against some Tua teams in the last 2 years and have made them look embarrassing. But I mean, come on, man. I don't even think it's going to be that they're going to cover that. I think it's going to be like a 10-point game. Tua is trying to prove people wrong right now, and last week looked pretty solid. It is the toughest pass defense in the NFL. I will say that, but their first matchup was against Jacoby Brissett. So that's the one I'm like, if you're double digits, I'm like, I'm staying away from that. Like, come on.
Look, I'm 0-2 in picking against the Dolphins in the big spread, so I'm not going to pick this one. Just because I'm tired of, at this point in time, I've lost both opportunities with a large spread and the Dolphins being involved. So I'm not going to pick this one because I'll lose it. Like, no matter which side I pick, I'll be wrong. And that's just because for some reason, the Dolphins are just like that one empty hole in my ability to get anything correct. So I'm avoiding this one completely.
Not touching that one with a 44 foot pole, letting that one just stay all the way away. That one's way too reckless, especially with the turmoil the Dolphins are into. Like, I don't trust we're going to get the Dolphins to play up to their roster. Are we going to be the one that can't figure out what they want to do at quarterback? Or do we have the Brian Flores who's like, is our guy? Or do we got Brian Flores saying, well, I don't know yet. They'll talk to you on Tuesday. Like, I'm going to stay away from that one because I think the Bills have a very good shot of running rub shot through them as well. Don't forget, last time we saw them, they lost by a quarterback sneak, so they're good then they'll marinate with that on a bye week. So knowing how well that team's coached and with Josh Allen at the helm, I think this has a very good chance for them to double the spread if they're not careful, just because how they're on two complete opposite ends of the spectrum. But I'm still not touching it because there's still a good chance the Bills are like, we'll kill them, and then it ends up being close. So I'm avoiding that one altogether. That's way too big of a spread for a division rivalry game.
All right, and last one real quick, over under for the Chargers Patriots is 49.5. Last time these two teams met, did not break the over under. What about this game?
I think that it's going to be an under. I will confidently say that, even if it's the Pats visiting the Chargers, even if it's Justin Herbert coming off a bye week and having to sit and kind of mold himself about his god awful performance against the Ravens and how they can correct things. I'm still going under. I'm having confidence that you're going to see Bill Belichick come out and find a way to make this at least the way they want it to in terms of controlling the game. And Patriots have played up to their opponents pretty well this year. They might be 3-4, but pretty much every game they've been in this season, they've given teams a tough out. They're I would say the pest is what is best to call them, or really that kind of like scrappy team. And like I said, I don't put it past Bill Belichick to slow down the Chargers. But I also am going to say too, like, I don't think this is going to be high scoring, because if I'm going to bet on the Patriots to make up that ground, I won't either. So I think you're going to see a bit of a lower score, and like say like a 20-17 or something, and that'll be the under for it anyway.
Yeah, DJ, what about you? You think you over under on this one?
Give me the under by a smidge, like 24-21, something like that. I think Justin Herbert's going to be a little bit too much, but I think it's going to be close just because they won't get the ball as much as they'd like as well. And Austin Eckler's a little dinged up. Unless the Chargers break out a new run defense we haven't seen yet. If they do that, then the Chargers will cover this comfortably, I think. I don't trust their ability to consistently hold the run back right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Look, Bill Belichick, king of the under, if you will. So we're going to take a real quick break. This is halftime. We're going to take a 32-second break, and we'll be right back with you guys in just a moment. Hey, there you have it. That is Zach didn't get to see our intro video, so I figured that's time to break it back out. Zach, what'd you think?
Say, damn, man, that does look really good.
Yeah,
I liked it up until you got to number 6. That I like.
You like the little pause of the music, super dramatic, and he's like running on the field like he's the savior with all the light shining on him. Like, he just needs to come on the show at this point in time. We need to get Jay Cutler on here for sure. For sure.
He knows how to handle it. So,
buddy RJ jumping in, love the reel. Cue the Cutler jokes. Absolutely, cue the Cutler jokes. He knows the joke. He is caught on to the joke since he's watching it. So no, it's absolutely fantastic. Zach and his Jay Cutler love. And by the way, RJ also a Bears fan. So shout out to yet another Bears fan living in. He understands your pain, Zach. Let's just
he relates. I like that. I like that. So now what you need to do next week is add a cigarette in his mouth, and then we got the full thing.
Well, I was going to do a Halloween special this week, but then I was like, that means I have to re-edit it and do it again differently next week. So, we'll maybe next season we'll have the cigar in there, but maybe get him on the show for the cigar. But that'll take us into quarter 3, guys. That means it's time for your fantasy football lineups. Now, this one's very interesting. This is a week where there are one less bye week. It's one less bye week this week, so you do have quite a few. At least one more game to pick from for some players. So, Zach, we'll start with you. Who do you have as your starts? Who do you have as your sits? And who do you have maybe as a surprise player?
Ooh, well, I'll tell you right now, and this isn't just because it's my team, but I would say if you have either Elijah Mitchell or Khalil Herbert, you should be starting them this week. I think right now, after watching that god-awful performance that Chicago had last week against Tampa Bay, also they have been prone to give up gashes as well. Elijah Mitchell has come back healthy and is looking strong. And Khalil Herbert, 2 games averaging about, had 97 and 100 then the second. So, around 95 yards a game. And San Francisco right now is not one of the better rush defending units in the NFL either, statistic-wise, that is. So I think if you have any option in terms of those two, if you have any chance of picking them up right now, I would say grab those. Also, if you have Kadarius Toney as well as Sterling Shepard, you have Giants players that are playing against a weak Kansas City secondary. I would say look to maybe start them. I would say Sterling Shepard, was outperforming a lot of his projected numbers before he went down with injury. I would say he can easily pick that back up if you got the chance. And to me, he's the most confident to give you a really good floor if you're looking for someone like that. In terms of sits, really anyone against the Rams this week that's like secondary. So like Brandon Cooks, if you have him, he's been solid, but I would just stay away. I also would say that I think Chuba Hubbard last week kind of showed his limitations as much. He's been a solid kind of like plug and play as a, kind of handcuff, but has not been as effective. And I think teams are keying in to the Panthers' weaknesses, which is that passing attack, I'm afraid. So I think you're going to have at least a rough day. I would not want to start him, and I've given up my confidence on him as well in some of my leagues too. And as in terms of say like a surprise player today, man, that one's harsh. I actually think that you're going to see, I don't know if it's really a surprise, but I think that, Rob Gronkowski's returning today. And I know that we were talking earlier that how the Saints defense might be a little bit limiting. I say he might be the one star that comes out of this that will get your points today. And if you have it, I mean, say you got a good tight end, at least unit, you got 2 solid starters, one that you can bench, and maybe Rob's the guy that's on your bench. I say switch him up, unless it's like someone like a Mark Andrews or something. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I think Gronkowski's going to be a little bit surprised and get back to his touchdown ways, and maybe even lead in receptions this week too. So look for him as well when you're planning out your fantasy rosters. But especially for starters, like I said, I know I said the Giants, but Sterling Shepard, I'm telling you right now, dude was outperforming his numbers. If you have a chance to start him against a weak KC defense, do it this week. I think you won't regret it. I'm banking on it myself in my leagues. I have 8 leagues, so like I have him eventually in one of them. That's what I'm going on.
All right. DJ, you heard Zach's. I mean, obviously you're a big Khalil Herbert fan. We talked about it when it came to your fantasy lineup. You actually ended up snagging him up off a couple waiver wires. But what do you have as your sit starts and surprises this week?
No, so we're gonna have a start. We're gonna have a start, a sit, and an emergency for our running backs and receivers. We'll start at running back. Your emergency running back, if things aren't looking good, go look at Samaje Perine, the backup running back for the Bengals, going against the Jets. We talked about that game is most likely going to be ugly, and I imagine that he's going to get a good amount of burn because they're going to be up by like 30, and he's going to come in when they take out Joe Mixon. Because as great as Joe Mixon has been this year, top 5 in rushing, if I'm not mistaken, he's been a little dinged up too. So I could see Zach Taylor in the offense like, well, it's 21-0, 3 minutes in. Hey, Perine, you want to go get a little bit of burn? And he's a guy who catches the ball very well out of the backfield. Look for him to. He's projected at about 8 points a day. Look for him to maybe give you 10 just because of a lot of garbage time yards. If you really are looking for somebody, maybe you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire and you're still trying to fill that role, something like that. He could be a guy to save you. A guy to start. If you picked him up last week, you know who we're talking about. D'Ernest Johnson, the backup Browns running back who had a coming out party on Thursday night. Look for him to go against the Steelers in that Kareem Hunt type role. Obviously, Nick Chubb is back. He's going to get a lot of carries, but Baker Mayfield is not healthy. I don't care what they say. You don't have a fractured arm and a torn labrum and expect to throw the ball 30 times. You got to expect to see a lot of Chubb and a lot of Johnson. There's going to be a lot of that going into the Steelers defense. So that's what you should be looking at, keying in on as well, too. So we'll see. I imagine he's going to give you some quality points, kind of like Kareem Hunt does, or at least did before he got hurt. So look for them. And then, of course, the sit running back for this week, I'm looking at Josh Robinson in Jacksonville. Seattle's run defense, while they've been incredibly effective, Kamara did go off on them through the air. But on the ground, Kamara wasn't as effective. They've with Jamal Adams, linebacker / safety / defensive end at this point. We joke about how he can't cover anything. The ball hits him in the face when you throw it at him, but he can still lay the wood with just about anybody. And Bobby Wagner's still there. They still got Jordan Brooks. They got a good front seven. I think they'll keep him in check and force Trevor Lawrence to throw over their heads. So that's what I have as far as the running back position goes. Now we're going to go to receivers. Looking for an emergency start, maybe take a look for Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Lions receiver as well. Going against the Eagles, they're 0 or 100 with their defense. They'll have moments where they lock it down and then suddenly they give up 40 points in the second half. Jared Goff doesn't have a lot of weapons. They're probably going to key in on TJ Hawkinson if they are smart. And DeAndre Swift, let Amon-Ra St. Brown get a little bit loose, maybe get you 10 points, not a whole lot, like 5 catches for 50 yards. Not a huge guy, but if you need an emergency guy to pick up right now because somebody's ruled out or something. So there's one guy to look at. And Zach talked about Sterling Shepard, a guy who Giants fans adore, but for some reason he never seems to live up to it. As someone who watched him a lot at Oklahoma, I thought he's going to be really good. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I'm going to stay in the same team, but I'm going to look at Darius Slayton, the burner from Auburn. He's a guy that everything you said about the Chiefs defense, yeah, Darius Slayton is just going to get right behind him for the same reason. He's a guy that basically, if he can catch the ball, he's good to go off. He has some moments where he absolutely explodes, and he's an absolute deep threat. I can see Daniel Jones maybe hitting him and having him run away once, and Tyrann Mathieu looking back and complaining or blaming the fans for being toxic or something like that as well too. Or Dan Sorensen spinning around in space. There's a lot of room to work there as well. And for receivers to sit, this one kind of hurts, and I hate to say it, but I think Tyler Lockett, you got to sit this week. Tyler Lockett is sensational. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he goes off just because I said this, because I have him on multiple my fantasy teams. So this might be reverse psychology. Take this one with a pound of salt. But Geno Smith can't seem to find him. I don't know. Geno Smith is really struggling. They don't use Tyler Lockett the way they should. No short crossing routes, no hitches, no pigtail routes. He's virtually relegated to a deep threat. Geno Smith doesn't want to throw him the ball because he's a smaller guy, I guess. I don't know. Even Russell doesn't like throwing the ball sometimes. He's a guy that he can give you a lot of boom. He'll get you 30 points or he'll get you 3. And the last few weeks have been a 3, and I feel like until Russell comes back, Geno's not going to be able to find him. hopefully I'm wrong on this one. This is one I hope I'm wrong on, but I have a bad feeling. Even in my league, I think he's going to get sat this week. So we'll see. But that's what I have for running backs and receivers. Start, sit, emergency start.
Yeah. All right. I like it. Look, I mean, that's huge because so many injuries and issues all around the league. I got to go right to the quarterback position. Dak Prescott is questionable. Game time decision. And do you want to wait until Sunday night to find out your quarterback will not be starting? I personally don't. I look at Matt Ryan. Obviously, a lot of people are questionable on him, but he is still the third most accurate quarterback under 10 yards in the league this season. So obviously, Kirk Cousins, him, and Kyler Murray in that category, which, surprise, surprise, that's a pretty good category to be in. That's where you complete most of your routes. DJ mentioned it earlier when we talked about Stephon Gilmore. Kyle Pitts has stepped up as a nice pass-catching weapon for him. So that is something to look at. And then if you're looking at tight ends because you have one of those guys that's just questionable because of injury, maybe look CJ Uzomah. Again, I mentioned him last time. I'm going to keep mentioning him because he just keeps climbing up the charts in the tight end position. CJ Uzomah is somebody to look at as well. And then, look, running backs, if you have Saquon, Austin Eckler, Alex Collins, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, look for anybody. Literally at this point in time, look for anybody. But DJ kind of stole my Johnson pick. I can't lie. That was D'Ernest Johnson was going to kind of be my, I'll sneak this one in there as a little bit of spice. But he is a quality running back. You saw what he did. He may have ran a 4.8 in his 40 in his school's combine. But that man runs much faster in pads than he does without pads. What he was able to do on that Thursday night short rest, fantastic. I'll give him a little bit more week to work, and he's going to be working behind Chubb. Easy money. Like he'll give you at least 10 points when you're scrambling for somebody. So that'll be one to look for as well. But that'll do us with quarter 3, and now, quarter 4. You know what it is. So it is that time, guys. Here we are, quarter 4, man. I mean, wow, it's already been 45 minutes. You guys believe it?
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't know, man.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break, though. We do have some time to kill, so I'm going to take a quick, short little break. We're going to see the little video one more time. All right, so we do have quite a few games happening this week. I do believe it is 14 again, finally, after some of the early bye weeks, only giving you 13 to pick from. And, man, our pick'em has been absolutely bonkers. We finally had a change in our pick'em positioning. Overall, after myself finally, after a couple good weeks, I am out of the cellar. DJ has thankfully taken allowed me to take my lead from the cellar. He has a 1-game deficit right now to build from, but honestly, I've watched him pick perfect weeks before, so it's only a matter of time. Zach and Jim tied at 70 and 30 overall. Hector, only a 1-game lead on you guys. I mean, we're closing in on the lead here, but last week, Zach and I both 10 and 2, Jim 9 and 3, Hector 8 and 4, along with DJ also at 8 and 4. I mean, DJ, we'll start with you. What do you have to say? How do you feel right now? I mean, do you feel pretty confident going into the last half of the season?
Meh. It's cool. It's fine. I have the best record since week 1. I'm good. I mean, I started 6-9 in week 1. What do you expect? I mean, it's like starting 0-5 and making the play and being expected to make the playoffs. I'm cool. It's fine. I started in the biggest hole. It's cool.
All right, fair enough. Hey, look,
it's my own fault that I started in the biggest hole, but it's still there, so it's cool.
Touche. Zach, how do you feel? I mean, second so far overall. You had a couple good weeks since you talked the smack to me, and then you had the worst week, and then you've had a couple good weeks since then.
Much like my life, I've learned that I shouldn't be cocky and just shut my mouth and show my efforts do the talking, which is what's gotten me back here is, sitting there. And that's all I'm going to say on it. We're still, me and Jim, are still right behind Hector, who, by the way, really impressive with the pick'em. Dude has been leading basically all year and is even with an 8-4 week continues to lead after kind of a slip.
Yeah,
guy's getting his stuff, and I'm not saying he doesn't know American football, but like he's schooling all of us. I'm just saying that right now.
It's like fantasy football when you get that one person who doesn't really watch watch any football, and they're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna pick these names, and they always end up having a great season, and you're like, how? What? Like, I'm sitting here, I'm reading up on 17 different expert opinions, I'm watching film, like I'm breaking down the numbers, and like my team sucks, and then Hector's over here like, oh, I got this, don't worry, guys. No, Hector is just a football guy. There's no ifs ands, but I'm standing by it. He is just the football guy from now on. But that'll take us into our matchups this weekend. I'm actually going to go in reverse order this week because, well, first of all, Monday night we all kind of have one opinion on Monday night, and I just want to get this one out of the way, truthfully. Monday Night Football, Kansas City versus New York. Again, this is one on the docket that preseason-wise, you're like, oh, well, maybe this won't be so bad after injury, and then the Kansas City Chiefs, the way they've been playing. This is a battle of what is mediocre teams up to this point. We all went Chiefs. Does anybody want to explain why we went Chiefs, or maybe want to make a case for why the Giants could possibly upset the Chiefs?
I mean, the Giants at least can. I don't know. Best case I can have is like what we were talking in fantasy, where somehow Daniel Jones and a slightly healthier receiving core will out their best offensive showing of the year and make it close. But no, that's it. I mean, that's all it is. You got a pissed off Chiefs team right now. There's no excuse. There's no way they'll slip to 3-5.
Oh, well, hey, okay. DJ, how do you feel about that? There's no way they will slip to 3-5. How do you feel about those words from Zach? Can we get those on a quote board?
Sure.
There's a chance, but I'm not taking that chance. Like, I mean, don't tell me the odds, C3PO. That's where I'm looking at this one as well, too. It seems I'm not taking those ones as well. Like, maybe the Giants make it close because that's an all-time terrible defense, but do you think Patrick Mahomes is going to throw another 4 interceptions, or you think he's going to look as bad as he did against the Titans? I mean, Mike, the Giants aren't the Titans. I'm having a hard time picking the Giants. I think it'll be closer than it should. It'll be weirdly competitive at one point, but Tyreek will get loose. Travis Kelce will get loose. Patrick Mahomes will have a drive. They'll win like 31-17. It'll be weird, but I'm not betting any of the houses on that. I'm not betting anything on the Giants. I don't.
Not even like the House Targaryen. Like you're not even gonna risk their lives.
It's the flip of a coin with their lives. I mean, shoot, I'm either risking a great king or I'm risking a absolute murder. I'm not. That's another one I'm not taking either. I'm avoiding that one too. We already did the betting section. You're throwing all these odds at me that I'm not ready for.
Touche. No, look, if the only way I think Patty loses this game is all of a sudden Jackson Mahomes walks on the field and starts recording a TikTok. If you've seen him in any of the backgrounds of TikTok, that just looks like a man that's lost his soul. He doesn't care anymore about life outside of football. He's just like, get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. I think so. Obviously, we all go in Kansas
Mahomes
City.
to Azkaban, though. Suddenly, the Chiefs win every game the rest of the way. If you send Jackson Mahomes completely out of the way, they will win every single game. He is the single-handed reason that Patrick Mahomes is struggling, and I stand by it.
That man is holding back from choking his own brother right now every time he's on screen.
Every single
all right,
play.
So that's going to take us to the Sunday night game. As we talked about, Dak Prescott is questionable to play. That led to most of my decision. I mean, honestly, I probably still go the other way, even if he was playing, just because I don't know. I have a sneaky feeling about the Vikings this one. But all three of us, all with Vikings, Jim and Hector, the other way. I mean, who wants to make the case for Jim and Hector on this one? Like, I can see it, but who wants to make the case for him?
Well, I'll tell you right now. I'm with you, Kelsey, where I'm getting vibes that, the game time decision or the mixed injury reporting that was on Saturday is actually true, and that I think that he is out. I mean, Prescott's talked, and there's even some other like nuggets that you find. It's like it's feeling sore if it doesn't respond well, which I don't know, man. If it's a calf injury, and in the way that he was looking at the end of New England, of that contest against New England, I'm not 100%. I would rather, as much as I hate to say it, I'd rather sit him. He's your prize guy. This is we're talking like right now, one of, if not the best QB in the NFL at this moment, with the most high-powered offense behind it. And yeah, I don't have trust in Cooper Rush, but I think most of mine just comes down, if Dak Prescott plays, that's simply it. Like, my pick is, to me, useless. I think that Dallas's pass defense at least is going to keep this a close game if you have to go to a backup. But with Dak in, it's going to keep it close, and then they're going to run away with it at times too. Minnesota's not a slouch either. It's just that Dallas is loaded up. They're healthy, and pieces like Ezekiel Elliott are finally back to their prime, at least what feels like their prime form. It does help too when Tony Pollard supplementing some of that running as well. But they can attack you any way possible. It's just that gets so kneecapped if Dak Prescott has to sit.
Yeah. DJ, what's your thoughts on this one?
I'll keep mine a little bit quick. Honestly, it didn't matter for me if Dak was playing or not. The Vikings always play them close every single year. The Cowboys are up by 1,000 games in the NFC East. It's terrible. Like, just don't play Dak. It's not worth it. Even if you lose this game, you're up by 1,000. And I think that receiving core is going to, I don't want to say expose the Cowboys secondary, but I think they're going to get some moments on them as well. The Cowboys secondary are ball hawks, but they're not cover guys. They are really good at taking the ball away, but they're not locking it down. And for all of Kirk Cousins' faults, he could find Justin Jefferson out there somewhere, Adam Thielen dunking on people, or even Osborne all of a sudden as well, too, could get loose. Like, I think if they could somewhat stop the pass rush, I think they'll be fine. It'll be close. Whether Dak plays or not, I agree with Zach, though. I'm not playing Dak this week. If there's any questions it to the point where it has to be a game-time decision, I'm like, no, the Washington's far enough behind. Even if they win, even if we lose and Washington wins, we still got like a game and a half, 2 games. Like, don't risk it. Not worth it.
Yeah, no, I'm same mindset with Dak. Don't risk it at this point in time. You already won a season without him. You saw how that worked. And as the resident Cowboys fan, I will tell you that it is not fun to watch a Vikings Cowboys game, and it never has been. It never will be. And I will go ahead and tell you that that is why I picked the Vikings, because it is just miserable. And to DJ's point, he took my thunder on this one. Trayvon Diggs, yeah, he's a ball hawk. Also giving up the most yardage by a corner. And going for a record here for that as well. So he might go ahead, DJ.
Hold on. I did not take your thunder. I said the secondary as a whole. I let you go in on Trayvon.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you're right. You alluded to my thunder. I saw the hands up and I was like, oh God, I said something wrong. DJ's gonna
hold on now. I made sure to leave your thunder. This is your domain. I made sure to stay out of that one. I simply opened the front gate to the house. I let you take him through the house tour though. Like, we took you through Kelsey's cribs of trashing Trayvon Diggs. That one is all yours. I simply opened the gate.
Look, I love what Trayvon Diggs could become, but right now there's a whole half of his game that he's forgetting, and that is the coverage part of it. You know,
Marcus Peters archetype. That is what I see out of him all the time. Ball hawk, but dude can give up the big play like any given time during a game.
It's like if Kyle Fuller could have caught those picks for the Bears that year, where he would have had like 13 or 14. Like, yeah, it would have been. It's the same thing. Like, it's like he has such a liability in coverage, but he's just fantastic taking the ball away. Mm-hmm. But our last one, and the only reason we picked this one is because, well, it's probably got the most interesting storyline, and that is the return of Jameis.
Oh, yes.
So, well, I say the return of Jameis, but it's actually in New Orleans. So, not really the return of anything, but Tampa Bay going to visit New Orleans in the dirty South, the Emerald City in there in New Orleans. But I'm the only one that went to New Orleans. So, for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and just start off and say, simply put, Jameis wants to prove a point. Jameis was a fantastic quarterback minus the picks. If you take away his picks, he is a fantastic quarterback career-wise. And then you put the picks in there, well, he's just an average quarterback, but he's slightly above average skill-wise, and now he can see where he's throwing the ball. That secondary for Tampa that is so maligned right now due to injury is a liability, and we'll see what they can do. I do feel like New Orleans has an opportunity here to upset the apple cart and take one from Tampa.
Well, I'll say defensively that they have all the aspects, at least as I hinted earlier, that they can slow down that Tampa Bay attack in most facets. My thing is for the Jameis point, do they let him get more? Do they let him get more? I guess erratic and more pass happy, because the Saints have the least amount of pass attempts in the NFL right now, which is kind of crazy to think about when Jameis Winston of all people is your starting quarterback and the history that he has as a passer back in Tampa Bay. I just think that conservative offense, unless Sean Payton, which I'm not going to put past him to game plan this way, and he just says, fine, kid, just start gunslinging again. We'll just do it like we need to do it for this game. But I feel like they're almost going to go the same path, which is give Alvin Kamara basically anything he wants. And then maybe once in a while you'll see Antonio Callaway or somebody downfield get a big play for him, and the defense can irk it out. I just think Tampa Bay, they're getting more of their weapons back this week. Like I said, Rob Gronkowski is going to be back as well. I mean, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. You can only cover one of them with Marshawn Lattimore. And I'm not saying that the rest of that secondary is bad, but, somebody's going to break out. It's just how they designed it in Tampa Bay. It's going to be a closer game than most people think, though. I'll give you that. I still got the Bucks in this.
Yeah. So, DJ, any final seconds?
Yeah, it's Tampa Bay is going to take care of it. There's no receivers. It's Alvin Kamara only, and Devin White's going to keep that under wraps. So I'm going to say Tampa Bay walks away comfortably. Jameis throws 3 picks.
Fair enough. All right, well, that'll do it for us today, guys, here on 4th and 4. It has been a fantastic time hosting. Zach will be back to hosting duties next week. Be sure to stay tuned for the rest of Belly Up pregame on Sunday. The Rough Cut Sportscast is coming up right now, and that'll get you guys out of here. Until next time, guys, we will see you later.